Hello, Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another Orc Mode workout, and today was Max Effort Press Day. And just a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos every single day and enjoy them, these training vlogs, please remember to click like down below. Help me make sure that we keep the likes higher than the dislikes. Just take a look down there, and if they're even close, please just click like. It would be so appreciated. Today we got the heaviest chains I will possibly use on the floor press. I got 91 pounds of chain weight is what the random number generator came up with. And you guys can see there's just a tiny hair of chain still on the ground, but if you look at where the chains are stacked up, that's maybe 5 pounds at the most. I'm not worried about it. I can only do what I can do on the floor press as far as getting the chains completely up, as long as we're consistent. So when we come back around to any of the chains again, we can just kind of compare the different chains and see where it's at. But you can only do so much when trying to adjust chains and everything perfectly. But we're getting the training effect that we want of accommodating resistance, struggling against a heavy max, and this was a struggle. I struggled with the lockout. Now I'm actually happy overall because this is so close to my other chain presses in terms of my max that have much less chain weight, which tells me that my pressing strength is probably going up. Right? It's probably going up considerably based upon that. And it's because I'm addressing the weak links. Now what's interesting on this is I started getting heavier. A lot of people would say, man, I bet you tricep weakness. You know, I didn't feel my triceps at all on these. I didn't feel any tricep. I didn't even feel like they were working. I felt all chest. And then I felt my delt start to hurt a little bit on the one where I had to grind to lock it, which was 275 plus the 91 chains. So again, this is indicative to me that pressing strength is going up, and it should be because I'm addressing all of those points, and we'll get to that in a minute. Because, you know, that's come up a lot, and people are like, man, we saw your squat make these huge jumps, and everything else stalled. Then your deadlift made these huge jumps, and now your bench hasn't done much. Well, it's because I'm having to address all these points. What is it that we learn from the different max effort work? We find our weak links. We find our weak links in the way that we do the lifts. We find our muscular weak links, and bench has been my weak link the entire time I've been on YouTube. And a lot of it's because I've always trained my deadlifts and legs and back and stuff really hard, and I've generally avoided bro training. But we have to admit, a lot of bros have a good bench. Why? Because they do a lot of hypertrophy work for their upper body. They do a lot of hypertrophy work. They do lots of tricep work and stuff too. Something I've traditionally avoided. But, you know, I've come around and just said, look, I've got to throw aside these ideas. And I have to look at what all the best coaches around the world do, understand the theories behind what they do, look at the data, and my ideas have evolved. My ideas have evolved as a teacher, as a coach, and as a lifter. And those ideas have been giving me PRs. They've been giving my clients PRs. And it's to understand the things. It's not just good enough to say, hey, why are these coaches doing these things? You have to understand why they work. So as I was ramping these, as I noted again, it was all chest, which means I obviously need to keep working on my chest, which will address with the bro stuff, but I'm also going to keep hitting triceps. Why? Because I need bigger triceps. And because a lot of the supplemental work I'm doing is going to be considered to be tricep dominant, best thing I can do is to just stack meat on my triceps then, to make sure that all this supplemental work continues to improve. All right? But even this, if you guys watch, I mean, obviously I'm struggling near the lockout, but it's because I have so much weight on the lockout. And the same thing on the one up here. You guys who watched the slow motion earlier, it looks slow, but you can tell here it's going to be slow also on my lockout. And again, I didn't feel any tricep. So a lot of times we would look at this and say, hey, your triceps are struggling. No, it wasn't tricep. I just used all my strength up, powering it through out of the bottom. You just had to dig in and grind to lock it. And that's what we do with these max lifts, and people need to understand that. What you're seeing here is the purpose of doing these max lifts. It is to learn to strain, because that's what a max is. A true max is a weight that you have to strain against to lock it. That's the reason we max. That's the reason we do max effort, and that's why it doesn't matter what lifts we do. It doesn't matter what lifts we do. But over to chest. What I'm doing at this point, I just need to maximize my chest, front, delt, and tricep development all the way across the board. I need to find variations that allow me to build the most muscle that are easiest to recover from and easiest on the joints and tendons. All right, I have to approach some of this at this point a little bro-like, in the sense of, let's just get chest and arms, bro. That's what I mean by bro. Just like I do for my deadlift, a lot of those bro type training for some of those muscles. Bringing my deadlift up. But we have to accept that this will work for bench, and it will. So I'm picking the exercises that I know are going to really build my chest top to bottom, build my tricep top to bottom, build strong shoulders. For now, it's going to be dip variations, incline variations, and a lot of tricep work. Now, the banded dips. This is one of those that you look at and it's nothing impressive to see till you do them. Why are we doing this? The stretch reflex. It's easy to set up. It's easy for me to throw a band over. It's way easier than hooking a belt and a chain up and doing weight. Yeah, it doesn't look impressive because it's just a little silly band compared to a bunch of plates hanging down. And it's hard. It's actually really hard. So that's the whole point. This one's not going to look impressive, but I can tell you the training response is, and we get that deep stretch reflex. This can replace part of what I was getting from the speed work if I'm going to do this training instead. I still get the overspeed eccentric and the stretch reflex. That band pulling you back down makes the pecs contract harder at the bottom. All right. The dip has the ability to give you a stretch reflex in the chest very, very effectively. That's one of the perks of this exercise. So we're accentuating the stretch reflex out of the bottom. And yeah, it works the hell out of my chest, especially 5 sets of 10. And actually I cranked out and managed to get, I think, 12 on the last one just to try to get a little more. Again, a lot of work density because I took pretty short breaks. So I felt my entire chest top to bottom lit up. And I felt my triceps too, but mostly just like the lateral head, which is fine because that's what's used on the bench. Then I went over to close grip incline. Why close grip? Because, I'm stronger with close grip. And the thing that we've got to remember, look, why are we doing incline? Incline gives us a longer range of motion. It works at least the entire top half of the chest. Extremely good lift for the front delts. Interior delt, good tricep exercise. When I do close grip, I'm stronger and more powerful in general. If I'm stronger and more powerful and it's adding a longer range of motion, it's probably just going to put more meat on me. Also, it's easier on the shoulders. So if I just do close grip, incline, and just do tons of work on it, get strong at it, you know what? It's going to bring my whole upper chest up, which is what I was feeling on that floor press just now. I'm going to bring my front delts up. Probably one of the best front delt exercises. This can largely replace my overhead press for now, because it will build the delts, build the upper chest, and it's a good all-around hypertrophy exercise for the upper body. If you think about it, this combined with those dips works all your chest and front delts. All of that's completely works top to bottom. And this I have the ability to pause at the end, and that's what I do. People are like, why are you touch and go? Because I'm just building fatigue. And you know what? I can do rest pause to get the final couple reps. When it starts to get hard, those pauses let you go ahead and reach basically the equivalent of muscle failure. Because if you have to pause on the chest for a second and then press, or you pause at the top for a second, then take another breath, come down, pause on the chest, basically means you were hitting muscle failure. And that's all you can do to get one last rep. You're like one rep from failure at that point. So it's a limit set. Now, I want to get stronger at these, but I'd venture to say that because of my leverages, my long arms, the fact that my long arms really are a hindrance for me, and the incline, it makes it even worse. I'm weak at it. 185 or 5 sets of 10 doesn't seem like much, but it works everything really hard for me. And I'd venture to say that if I get this up to 225 for 5 sets of 10, which again doesn't sound that impressive, I would probably have a 400 bench at that point. That would probably be a 400 bench in terms of the hypertrophy. And that's what I have to do. I've got to build all these muscles. Now, the thing that people might point out, they're like, well, with that close grip, couldn't your triceps start to become a limiting factor eventually? Well, I don't feel them on it right now. But in theory, they could. But here's the idea. If I do all of my pressing like this, all of it with closer grips, and I just overdevelop my triceps, do I care if my triceps are a problem? No, because they won't be. Because I don't even feel my triceps on most of these close grip movements now. That floor press, I didn't feel them. The incline, I don't feel them. I feel my chest and delts. So I think that'll be the strategy. Let's do this. Build all that area up. Hypertrophy it as much as possible, because size does equal strength. The data is overwhelming for that. Anyone who is in denial of that is completely scientifically illiterate at this point. Like, you have to be a complete complete ignoramus to not understand that. There's so much evidence, scientific data proving it, that only an ignoramus doesn't understand that. If you get bigger, you will get stronger. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build my entire chest up. Upper chest, middle chest, lower chest. I'm going to build all 3 heads of my triceps as big as I can get both of them. And then I will use the max work and the conjugate lifts to build the maximum strength out of it. I just need to bro it up a bit. And these are all good exercises. All these are very long range of motion. Think about everything that we get from that. Look at the dips. The dips are a very long range of motion, allow a stretch reflex. Doing the bands enhances the stretch reflex, right? We're getting a powerful contraction. Close grip incline bench, longest range of motion possible on an incline bench. Works that whole region effectively. Then I come to a Skullcrusher like this. And I can do variations of those others, by the way, guys. I'm not stuck with those. That's a lot of exercises available. I've got 3 types of dips I can do. I can do bands, I can do chains, I can do plates. I can rotate through them as needed. Same thing with the incline. I can use my football bar. I can add chains. Like if I feel like the triceps aren't getting worked enough, you know what? I can add chains to it later. And then look at this extension. Longer than average range of motion because we're getting that stretch behind the head with that pullover effect. Works all 3 heads of the tricep. And when you hit failure on it, it's easy because it puts no real stress on the tendons. This is easy on the tendons. When you hit failure, you can just do a pullover back up. And that's what I do on all of these. I just hit muscle failure. But because I can't do the tricep extension part, I just do the pullover and bring it back up into my chest when it hits failure. So 5 sets of this to failure. Someone asked me also, how narrow is your grip? It's very narrow. You need that narrow grip. And the way I'm doing this is to minimize inflammation on the tendon. So I'm trying to pick a tricep exercise here that will build my entire triceps as much as possible by using a very long range of motion, hitting all the heads that's easier on the tendons, hopefully. That narrow grip and doing the pullover effect reduces that negative effect on the tendons. And I can always add chains again. If that becomes even an issue, we can add chains to this again and do this same exercise with chains. But again, look at the motion involved. We're working everything, working all 3 heads. So again, we want to build the entire chest and the entire tricep top to bottom, along with strong front delts. And that will get my bench up at this point. All this other conjugate training I'm doing will then maximize the strength potential of the hypertrophy. But I've got to grow. We've got to get bigger. We've got to get bigger. So that's going to be the name of the game. And I think this is going to work very effectively. And I think that floor press we saw today is indicative of the fact that my pressing strength is probably going up already from this. We'll find out as we go through other lifts. We'll see where it's at. Get everything dialed in, but I've got to just grow. We have to grow. And again, this method's going to work. It's a lot of volume, but I'm picking exercises that my shoulders and tendons and elbows can handle very effectively that recruit as many muscle fibers as possible. And in this case, it is thinking in a way like a bodybuilder. Just, I've got to build these muscles. I've got to build them up. And of course, incidentally, I'll probably end up looking more aesthetic out of it, even though that's not my goal. Not my goal. It'll probably happen because I see bigger pecs and bigger triceps and bigger delts. It'll probably make me look better. I don't think as a general rule, bigger upper pecs, because all the inclining and stuff, bigger upper pecs and bigger triceps don't usually make you look less aesthetic. But again, good workout. I'm happy with the workout today. Happy with the way everything went. Felt like it was a good amount of stimulation, good display of strength. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.